Hey everybody, I'm in County Tipperary, Ireland, and I had the best intentions of showing you all kinds of videos of the garden projects that I'd be working on, but unfortunately this trip has not gone according to plan. When we first arrived, temperatures were really quite low. We had several days below freezing. The frost actually kind of stuck around for days, which is unusual here. We do get freezing temperatures and snow up here, but it's not that common, and it's especially not common to have it last for several days. Shortly after that, my partner Liam, one of his close relatives, had passed away after an extended illness. So then we got a crash course in Irish funerals. And although Irish funerals are similar to American funerals, there were some things that were a little bit different. And so we maneuvered through that just fine. One of the most interesting things was about 30 plus neighbors had gotten together and had dug the grave. And I know for people in North America that might sound really kind of strange, but ultimately it was very reverent. There was a lot of camaraderie, and I felt very blessed to be able to be a part of that. So just kind of an interesting aspect of Irish funerals that I would not have otherwise been familiar with. Then after the dust from the funeral had settled, I came down with COVID, and holy smokes, that was, well, 24 hours of complete nightmare. The extreme aches and chills and all that kind of stuff. But fortunately, the worst of it was kind of over in 24 hours. Now I just have a runny nose that comes again and goes away. Same thing with chesty cough and sore throat. And the fatigue still kind of comes over me, but it's not nearly as bad as what some people have. So, but I have to admit, before you feel sorry for me, if I'm gonna be kind of stuck in isolation, the Irish countryside is a pretty good place to be. Also, like when I was down for the count, I got to spend the whole time in one of my favorite rooms anywhere, and that's in our cottage. So I feel lucky on that. Right now, I am gonna walk you around. I have been able to get outside a little bit and do a couple things. I'm kind of one of those people right now where like I'll have 2 hours where I'm completely exhausted and then 2 hours where I feel pretty good. So then I go and do something and then I'm exhausted, and I kind of fluctuate between that. So I still feel like I'm getting things done. You might hear a little bit of stuffiness in my voice, and so that's still kind of going, but otherwise not too bad. So let me show you the things that I'm working on. Some of the things I've just started, some of them I haven't even started yet, but I thought I'd give you that update just so you can kind of see what I'm up to. So here we go. So before I got sick, I did manage to get my hedge trimmed, so I'm really happy about that because the laurels do tend to get quite big, and so keeping them topped and kind of side trimmed is really important, because in this spot especially it can be a little bit tricky because there's such a slope facing the road that getting up there can be kind of a pain, and kind of dangerous too, because there's a lot of brambles in there, and brambles, if you don't know, are kind of a wild blackberry, and man, they have thorns like crazy. So my ankles were just eaten alive. Even though I had long pants and shoes on, they still kind of scratched through all that. So the brambles kind of a ugh, but I managed to get through that. And one thing I will say is that I do use here a Black & Decker battery operated hedger, and I really do like it. I know a lot of people have said like, oh, the battery operated ones aren't as strong or don't have as much power as the gas ones or whatever. I don't really find that to be too much of a problem. In fact, on this one, I've managed to actually cut through branches that really I shouldn't have cut with that hedger, but it did a great job, kept going. And the other thing is that, like, this hedge, I did this whole side and that whole side plus my boxwoods all on 2 battery charges. So that's pretty darn good. The batteries last longer than my arms did, I gotta say, because you know, having to hold the hedger over my head in some parts definitely gives you quite a workout. So, and I did do the trim on the boxwoods. I do still have that blight. I haven't had a chance to remove those. The blight actually isn't that bad. It looks better this year than it did last year, and I'm surprised it didn't really spread. But I think my plan is to replace a section of this, maybe just put a dry stack stone wall for a good part of this, just because it is, you know, kind of, I don't want it to spread. This is also the spot in the garden where that doesn't get as much airflow as the other parts, which might explain why it was maybe more prone. From my understanding, boxwood blight is kind of common in the UK and Ireland, and it has arrived in the United States. So if you notice signs of blight on your boxwood, I would recommend getting in touch with your state extension office. It's really important that we kind of keep control of this, because it will start to spread and it will affect a lot of people's boxwood. So if we can kind of keep it under control, that's definitely all the better. Let's see, what else can I show you? Gosh, this sunken garden area is just a disaster, and I don't even know that I'm going to get anywhere on this. One thing that I did notice is a lot of my evergreens have started to lean a lot. You can tell which way the prevailing wind is, so I'm going to have to get those staked up. Since I can't really leave and go anywhere, I'm going to just use the materials I have. I have some ratchet straps. I'm going to just use those and just see what happens. Hopefully those will work for me, and I'll just kind of go from there. Let me run around the back and just kind of see what else I can show you. This back area just kind of required a general cleanup, which is exactly the same thing I've done every year when I get here. So I had to get the grass out of the gravel and then tame like the wild roses and some of the shrubs, because of the hedgerow, which is just piles of rock and dirt with a lot of grass growing on it, it does kind of push the shrubs out into the yard a little bit. So giving a nice trim will kind of keep them upright and prevent them from pushing too far in. I do have another tree over here that's really leaning inward a lot, so I'm going to strap that in and get that kind of in line with the other ones again. I think it's just kind of collapsing a little bit at the bottom from the roots. And then over here, this one here is my jasmine, which seems to be doing pretty well. I'll just kind of tidy that up a little bit. And this is my wisteria, which it really hasn't been doing too much. I mean, it does kind of flower and stuff, but it definitely is not growing. And last year it was growing up even farther. So I think I might be putting something else in this spot, more of that jasmine. This one's doing really well, but I've got to get it tamed, pull in all those branches that are kind of moving over. My rhododendron's looking pretty good, has lots of buds, so this is going to get covered with flowers, and then once the flowers bloom, then it's going to put out some new growth. You can see on this side of the plant there is a little bit wear on the leaves. That's mainly because that's the prevailing wind, so it kind of knocks off some of those leaves, kind of weathers it a little bit. But when it fills with flowers, you actually don't even notice that, and then the new growth kind of comes in the spring. It always looks really nice. Over here, I'm super thrilled with how my heather's doing. And you can see these were just tiny, tiny plants when I put them in. They're getting nice and big. And then my Catone Easter, that's spreading like crazy. I've got it in here, but then it also, you can't really see it that much, but it's also spreading along the ground here. So it's probably a little bit invasive, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it, because wherever it touches, it does spread. But each one of these heathers were really tiny. I just got them, you know, in a little like 6-pack or 8-pack, and I just stuck them in, and they're just getting nice and big. I wish I had time to kind of clear the grass out around them so that they kind of could spread even maybe more, but they tend to hold up really well. I love the fact that the new growth tends to be a different color than the old growth. The flowers are a different color, and then in the spring you get really good fall interest as well. So it's a year-round plant around here. My wild rose is getting some new shoots. I don't know if the focus is working that great on there, but I'm getting nice leaf action kind of sprout out on there. Then over here, this area hasn't changed that much, but I want to show you some of my finds from the garden center that I was at. So these here are some euonymus, it'd be like the winter creeper that we have, and I just thought they're really beautiful. You can grow these in Michigan, so they're familiar to me, and I just really like them. This here is just a beautiful heather that I found. It's kind of got a peachy orange color to it. I hadn't seen one this color. I hope it takes, and I hope it keeps it true to its color throughout the years. I got to find a good spot for this, because it's just a really nice showy heather. And then this here is a jasmine that I found. My other jasmine have white flowers. This one has bright yellow flowers. They look really cool, and I thought this might be a good replacement for that wisteria that's not doing so well. And then over here I do have my daffodils coming up, and you can see they're starting to bulge with flowers, so we're gonna have flowers probably not by the time I leave. They always tend to show up just as I'm about to go. So thrilled about that. And then what else can I show you? I think I'm just gonna give you a peek at the sunset, because there's only moments left of that sun now. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty pooped right now, so I'm gonna just put a link up to last year's videos. You can kind of see some of the things I worked on. Again, kind of a repeat of this year's. I'll hopefully give you an update before I leave. And hey, thanks for watching, everybody. I will talk to you soon, and hopefully I'll have a bit more energy next time.